Welcome to the first overview of Robert Strayer and Eric Nelson's AP World History textbook, Ways of the World. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at Chapter 2 in the book, titled First Civilizations, Cities, States, and Unequal Societies. This chapter covers roughly the years between 3500 BCE and 600 BCE. While this video is not designed to be a summary of the chapter, it's rather an overview or video reading guide to help you understand the content. You will still have to read the chapter in order to get the details. As the title suggests, Chapter 2 examines the rise of the first agrarian civilizations that emerged after the Neolithic Revolution. Strayer begins the chapters with interesting vignettes or short stories about the chapter material, usually relating it to something relevant in modern times. While some students might skip the intros, even though they're pretty short, I think you're going to find them helpful in understanding the topic, so I will discuss them in the overviews. In the Chapter 2 intro, Strayer looks at what exactly a civilization is. He points out the specific characteristics that make a society a civilization, and therefore how it is different from earlier examples of human societies. He also introduces the debate as to whether or not the development of civilizations was a positive step forward for human societies, by pointing out some of the negative byproducts of the emergence of civilizations. The first heading of the chapter, Something New, the Emergence of Civilizations, traces when and where the first civilizations emerged. Strayer identifies 8 early civilizations, including Mesopotamian in the Middle East, Egyptian and Nubian along the Nile River Valley in Africa, Norte Chico in South America, Indus River Valley civilizations in South Asia, Chinese civilization along the Yellow or Huanghe rivers, and Oxus civilization in Central Asia, and Olmec civilization in Mexico. Strayer then explores why civilizations emerged in the first place. What were the origins of this new development? One major answer to that question was the development of agriculture as a means of food production. An important result of the emergence of civilizations was the development of cities. Strayer illustrates this by describing 2 major urban areas, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa in the Indus River Valley. The next heading of the chapter, The Erosion of Equality, takes on the development of social inequalities that resulted from the emergence of civilization. Strayer focuses particularly on the origins of class hierarchies and patriarchy, both of which were not as prevalent in pre-agricultural societies. Strayer also points out the difference between the terms sex and gender. Sex refers to the biological classification of a species, while gender refers to the social norms we associate with masculine and feminine. In early civilizations, patriarchy was codified into law very early on, and patriarchy came to dominate religious views also, as female goddesses were replaced by male gods. The next heading of the chapter focuses on a new feature of first civilizations, the rise of states as a means of organizing societies. It's important to understand that by state, what Strayer means is an organized central government structure. Strayer explores the sources of state authority and how heads of state, which in early civilizations almost exclusively meant a king, enforced their power through a mixture of coercion or force and consent. Pay particular attention here to the need for governments as a way to organize and finance large-scale construction and defense projects. Religious ideas were also tied into the power of the ruling classes. This was especially prevalent in China. Another important aspect of state authority was the invention of writing systems. Writing was used for propaganda purposes and accounting. Yet another source of kingly authority was the grandeur of the lifestyles of the ruling elite and the elaborate monuments that were constructed in their names. The next heading of the chapter compares 2 of the early civilizations, Mesopotamia and Egypt. Strayer starts by comparing the environments of both civilizations, which centered around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia and the Nile River in Egypt. These two river systems are characteristically very different from each other, which led to some important cultural and even political differences among the two civilizations. This is a great illustration of the theme of interactions with the environment. When comparing the state structures of each civilization, we see another major difference between the two. Mesopotamia experienced a lot of political instability and frequent conflicts among various city-states. Egypt, on the other hand, experienced much more political stability and longevity. One thing they both had in common was frequent interaction and exchange with other first-wave civilizations. Not only were goods exchanged, but ideas and cultural influences as well. This sometimes led to conflicts with those other civilizations. Chapter 2 ends with a brief discussion that centers on the word civilization itself and the historical controversy around it. Many historians don't like to use the word. One reason some historians have a problem with it revolves around the question of whether civilization itself was good for humanity. There is an assumption that civilized society and peoples are superior to non-civilized peoples. Many disagree with this assumption. There is also the question of whether or not civilizations were in fact solid political and cultural entities with distinct boundaries. That's all for Chapter 2. Remember, to get the specific details, you'll have to read the chapter. If you have any questions, just simply ask.